before we start the podcast, some sad news in the rugby community. Connor Garden-Bishop died aged 25 following a medical event in Christchurch on Monday evening. The Highlanders and Māori All Blacks outside back was a father to 3-year-old twin daughters. Connor's parents are former All Black and Manu Samoa first five Stephen Bishop and former Black Fern Sue Garden-Bishop. Sue died in 2009 after a long battle with cancer. Connor's brother Jackson Garden-Bishop plays rugby for Brive in France. Police said the death is not being treated as suspicious and will be referred to the coroner. So very sad news there, Tony Lyall.
Yeah, very sad news indeed, James McOnie. It was absolutely gobsmacked me when I saw it pop up yesterday in the ODT. Connor Garden-Bishop, of course, he was finishing up his time in the Highlanders at the end of the season, but he'd been such a almost revelation in their backline. Every time he got the ball, he would just light it up. One of those players who could just completely do something from nothing, so unpredictable, so good. And from what I've heard as well, such a good character. I mean, I don't know him personally, but a few people that I do basically all said across the board that he was an absolute legend and such a tragedy, especially for a man who was a father to twin daughters and, you know, a family man by all accounts. It's tough stuff. So our thoughts with the Garden-Bishop family and, hope they can get around each other and support each other through, a really difficult time.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's so gutting. It's 25 years of age and, you know, he lived life to the full. I just remember every time I saw Garden-Bishop play, Connor, it was all joy.
Yeah.
You know, everything he did, even when he, most recently on Crowgo's Wild, we had a shot of him giving a hearty pukana down the camera when he was on the reserves bench. You could tell he's the life and soul of the party, and it's just devastating for everybody who knew him, and you can see the tributes all out there, and so we just like to say how sad we are, and our thoughts go out to his family and friends, and we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with the podcast after this.
Well, welcome back to the Champagne Rugby Podcast. Appreciate you taking the time with us at the start. We are brought to you by MaxRaft, fitting insulated concrete slabs nationwide, the first step to a warm, comfortable, healthy home. You are joining myself, Tony Lyall, and James McOnie in what has been a huge week of semi-final football when two become one. I guess actually when four become two is a more accurate song for semi-finals week. Yeah. Next week I can sing when two become one. I need some love like you never needed love before. Wanna make love to you, baby. I had a little love. And now I'm back for more.
Anyway,
to you, baby.
Set your spirit free. It's the only way to be. Did they give Posh her own line in that song?
Yeah, I think so. They were she was copping a lot of flack for not being up to the same standard in terms of singing ability as the other four. Of course, Ginger, Scary, Sporty, and it must be another one who I can't remember. Baby, there you go. Always forget the baby. It's tough, especially when you're doing kindy pickup and you leave them in the car. But yeah, she was getting a lot of flack. People going, she's not as good as the others. She's just there because she's outrageously attractive. And
nobody puts Baby in the corner.
They weren't wrong. No one does put Baby in the corner. I remember someone told me Baby Spice died at the height of the Spice Girls pandemonium. And I was a big Spice Girls guy. I mean, I was 6 years old. And I literally cried. I wept. I sat on a piano stool and wept. And then someone else came in and said, she's not dead, I'm just joking with you.
And then you composed a song.
And then
I was like, baby, 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 no.
It was quite cool sitting on a piano. I was a very brooding 6-year-old sitting on a piano stool, kind of like the thinker, just with my hand up going, I can't believe it. She was so young.
That's an early memory, by the way.
I've got all sorts of early memories. I also remember the day Princess Diana died. I don't know when that was, 97 or something. I remember it because I walked into a dairy in Blenheim and there was a newspaper and it had, she was all over not newspapers, magazines.
Yes.
And it was her face, and she was with Dodi Al-Fayed on the cover, and it said, Diana, new man, new love, new life. And I remember saying, new dead. And I remember hearing the guy who worked...
Was that your first stand-up gig?
First joke. And the guy behind the counter, I remember, can so consciously remember him going, oh! and really not liking it. He
Your
gasped.
precocious son is a bit of a little shit, isn't he?
Gasped
Mrs.
audibly.
Lyall.
I thought it was a pretty good gag. New dead? That's funny, man.
You did.
New life, new love, new dead. That's good stuff.
It's pretty good for a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old.
Yeah.
When were you born? 1990.
86.
Oh, right.
Oh, so how old's that?
You're 11.
Yeah, end of 86, tail end. I was 10.
10, yeah, 10, exactly. Okay. All right. Great memories of...
I mean, now 9-year-olds are landing 900s on skateboards, so maybe I should have had a job by then.
It's still reasonably high level, we'll give you that.
3 back-to-back 900s, just outrageous stuff, by the way. And a 900 alley-oop a 9-year-old landed this week.
Wow. In skateboarding news.
Yeah.
In rugby news...
Oh, yeah, that's stuff.
the Blues played the Brumbies on Friday night, and that felt like a massive damp squib of a semi, and one that even though I thought Mania, Stewart and Matt Ward were absolutely on fire, I just went, the semi-final isn't, though.
It was not a good game of rugby union. It should have been. I thought it was going to be a classic. The Brumbies come over here. I kept going on about this time and time again. They had the same win-loss record as both the Hurricanes and the Blues going into that weekend. They're stacked with talent, really good outside backs, strong forward pack as well. I thought they were going to come over here, and I half thought that we were in for an upset. I mean, I'd said it last week on the podcast, don't write the Brumbies out. I think the Brumbies could do this, and it just was a big, old-fashioned fanny fart of a game.
Yeah, and you don't really want a fanny fart, especially around that time where you go, okay, where's the crowd? I mean, it just starts to echo the fanny fart. So what the Brumbies, I think, brought all season was fortress mentality at home. Mm-hmm. They knew how to suffocate teams, bore people to death, but then suddenly with a couple of excitement machines on the wing, you go, what the hell, scoring outrageous tries. But then when you break it down, the whole thing about the semi-final football is the step up, and the Brumbies just don't have it this year. And then the next semi-final was like, well, both teams had it, and it was just crazy. The level of that game in the cake tin, oh my goodness. I struggled to watch Tony Lyall, I must admit. Had to go and make a cuppa.
Too inebriated?
Yeah, I was, exactly, hitting the exports hard. No, I was like, I needed a cuppa in the second half. Shit, it was stressful.
It was an incredible game. It's one of those games that people be like, oh, this should have been the final. And every time anyone says that, I'm always like, no, it's a perfect semi-final. Semi-finals should be big, hard games. You don't know who's going to win. And finals, and I think we're going to be in for that this weekend. I think the Blues at home, it's sold out already, which is, thank fuck for that. The Blues fans, worst supporters, they're almost as bad as Cantabrians, but at least Cantabrians go. I can't believe that game was the state it was on Friday night in Auckland. And I don't want to brag, I was in Melbourne for work, but was it pissing down in Auckland? Was there a reason that people weren't heading out? Is it just indifference?
It was a bit of all of the above, wasn't it, really? And also, I mean, I felt like it was a weekend where the Wars were playing, so your night out might be off to go hard media.
People, and people keep saying this idea that the Warriors and the Blues are at odds with each other. I don't think there's a massive 10,000 people crossover of people who attend those games. The Warriors are selling out week in, week out forever.
No, they haven't.
Well, in the last couple of seasons.
No, that's the thing.
But it's not like it's...
So you've just described the 10,000 this week.
No, I don't think I have. I don't think the people that are at the Warriors are going there instead of the Blues. I just don't think that's the case. I just don't think the Blues have a tight fan base that goes every week.
That is true, but I think there is the casual sports fan who might have considered going to the Blues. If you look at old Super Rugby games, and they were packed a bit like the Wars are now, you can tell there's an audience somewhere in Auckland that will say, I'll go to the thing that I think is the best value entertainment, and if I'm a sports fan, I'm kind of choosing. I mean,
I hear you.
To be honest,
I make space for you.
But I think look, it's fine. I think there is room enough in the city for fans like that, because even when they have the Phoenix at Eden Park, they've got up to 20,000 there. So to your point, yes, there's a million people here. You know, where my rugby fans at, and they're not really. I think there's a real Auckland apathy when it comes to the rugby following public.
There really is.
It's not quite how would you call it, a religious fervour and love of the team that you find with other teams around the place. I mean, it's it's kind of funny, like when NPC starts and you see how passionate Taranaki fans or Tasman fans are, and you just go, that's what you actually want at super level as well. And the Chiefs have had that for a few years. I think the Crusaders really sort of like had that siege mentality and bouncing back from the earthquake and all those setbacks and stuff. You could see that was a beautiful thing. I think that the Hurricanes are getting to that point now. Like, I reckon next year, hopefully, it'll be box office and there won't be so many yellow seats in the cake tin. But anyway,
certainly a lot of yellow seats. Yeah, it's tough. Auckland All Blacks games sell out at the drop of a hat. I'm pretty sure this next one against England is all but sold out already. So, there's people who like the All Blacks. I wonder if it's the transient nature of the city, as a lot of people move here from other places. I know I'm guilty of that. People move to Auckland for work opportunities, and maybe they've got a team that isn't the Blues already that they like.
Well, the Auckland Test, I'll have you know that everybody from down the line loves the Auckland Test. That's their one time where they buy a ticket,
come up to the big smoke,
stay in a nice hotel, go to the casino,
make love to their wife.
Exactly. That one time they say, it's on tonight, honey. We're going out and we've got
to do it before the game because I'm going to get so shit-faced at the game that I can't feel feelings. So let's get it on in the hotel room.
That's right.
Then we'll go out for dinner.
And they go to pubs that we think are kind of like a bit generic, like Danny Doolan's, and they go, "Oh, I'm going to Danny Doolan's. I've read about this in the paper, because
I've read about it in the paper. I'm getting the fisherman's basket from Danny Doolan's.
That's right. How good is life right now? I'm looking at yacht masts. Oh, look at me. I've got yacht masts.
Guys, I went for a walk down I saw so many yacht masts. It was great. I'm drinking in the Auckland culture that these Aucklanders master. I went and got a $35 espresso martini on Ponsonby Road. I'm just one of them. I'm one of them.
Exactly. So it's a big deal that game. They book it early and they get their hotel rooms and they're fired up for that.
And they're hitting the casino afterwards, absolutely ripping in. The casino, to someone who's not from Auckland, is like crack cocaine.
Disneyland, yeah.
They can't get out of it. They go, they're like, I'm heading into the casino, big night, forget about any other plans I had, I'm putting it all on black.
Oh, and also the excitement of wandering around town and maybe seeing an All Black on his way back from Les Mills or something is like, that gives them huge jollies. Like, in the end, so they get their jollies.
My first ever time in Auckland as an adult, I was driving up for Big Day Out with a group of the fellas from Blenheim. Yeah. Never been to Auckland, I don't think ever in my life. I was driving up on the motorway and we're driving down. I'm blown away by the motorway. I'm a kid from the South Island. I'm like, oh shit, 4 lanes, it's incredible. And we're driving along and I glance to my left, not even into Auckland Central yet, just on the motorway, glance to my left. Who's sitting in the car beside me driving along the motorway? Oscar Kiley.
Oh, yes, a legend.
I'm like, oh my God, celebrities are everywhere.
Really good driver
This is
well.
incredible. I looked over and was like, oh, waving at him. We were absolutely losing our minds. And then got to Auckland, was like, we've already seen one celeb that night, went out on the town, walked down Queen Street, saw Josh Thompson. He was standing on the side of the road. At that time, he was famous from being in the Fresh Up ads. I don't know if you remember the Fresh Up ads. Basically, he'd do things to get really hot and sweaty. And we'd come over on the ferry and, we were scumbags from the South Island. So a couple of us had hidden the boot of the car to get over on the ferry. And I'd hopped in a sleeping bag, fully clothed. It got so hot in there, I completely sweated through my clothes. And so I told him, I was like, mate, you're in the Fresh Up ads. Here's this great idea. Go on the ferry on the ad and you can get up a big sweat. And I remember telling him that, thinking it was a great idea. And years later, Josh and I know each other well now, and I mentioned it to him and he's like, I half remember some guy, and I was like, there's something wrong with this guy. Some guy just berating me on the side of the road on Queen Street outside the comedy club about how you can not pay for the ferry and get really sweaty.
Going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Which is, it's early Tony Lyall.
Yep.
The good thing is, I guess, with this game, it's a smash and grab. It's a ram raid, really, for the Chiefs. Just to drive up the motorway and just go, Hundy, the Manabus is coming, and everyone is jumping. I've come up with some lyrics for that as well. It's kind of like, from the Mount to Hamilton City, we've got Wallace City. Yeah,
that's good.
Anyway, so the Manabus is coming, and the best thing about it is, if you win it, you can still get back in time for drinks in the Tron.
Do you think they will?
Yeah, you can. You can go out here, obviously. Auckland, exciting, mix it up downtown with the 501s. But you can also just get the hell out and say, we've got what we came for. We're going parties back at the bank and the Outback. And
I like the idea of doing it.
Good
have
home.
one night here in Auckland where they sort of defile the place like conquering champions. You know, they go out pillaging and probably not the other stuff, but they go out there and, you know, classic Chief stuff. They'll throw some gravels at strippers, that sort of thing. Have a night out here, really cut loose, and then on the Sunday go back to Hamilton and have a good knees up there once the dust has settled a bit. Because, you know, it is a week-long event. These things...
I was talking about the fans, actually.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's so easy just to drive up and go back. And there were always the train, they put trains on back in the day for the Ranfurly Shield challenges and all that sort of stuff. So there's a tradition of, I think back in the day, even the team would go back. But now, like you say, you can do it either way. You can defile the city if you wish.
I think defile the city, sack Rome, if you will. Especially if you're a fan, you know, you don't want to be sitting there sober as a judge. I mean, and if you don't drink, that's also fine. But if you're at the game, you probably want to be having a couple of delicious export ultras, and especially if they win, you know, maybe you get to chug out of the cup if you get close enough to the team. But I like this idea of the train. I feel like this is something you should have teed up for Crowd Goes Wild or one of your various other sporting shows, and got the train to come up with a trainload of fans from the Tron, park right up there.
They might do it again. I'm not sure, but they used to do it. And that's what I was saying on Saturday night. I was saying, is it called the Tahuia?
Yeah.
I was going, get it up here, because in the end, you can get the Tahuia, and that train would stop right outside Kingsland. And the cowbells would ring, and everyone would just walk down to Eden Park. I never caught the train. I was either living up here or just made the trip independently. But, I don't know what happened on the night that we won the Shield 1993. You were...
5 year,
little young fella, but that was a big night. The good thing is that now that we've beaten the Chiefs have beaten the Hurricanes, I don't really care as much about the result. I'm just happy to be here. The Chiefs have got this far. They've peaked at a good time. Wallace Atiti is an absolute find. We've got Cortez and Artima playing his socks off, and then old Damien McKenzie starting to just boss things like a proper international first five, test first five should. So it's like, we're in with a chance. Huge chance. The one thing is, the Blues are beefy AF. They're so freaking massive.
They are very beefy. Yeah. And, I mean, you mentioned a few players there, and I think it's important to point out as well against that game in the Hurricanes. I mean, Sean Stevenson, a late scratching from the team. And some sides that might really rattle them, having someone who was such a core player pulled out last minute. But old Rona stepped in, and you barely noticed. They looked great still.
Exactly. So I think, having Atene Nanai-Saturo move back, Narawa was on fire, that early try.
Unreal.
Beautiful run. That's what rugby should be like. That's Champagne Rugby. That's what this podcast is named after.
That is Champagne Rugby.
And so I know the Hurricanes play Champagne Rugby as well, but also rattling the team the way they did, I loved all that stuff, like winning turnovers when they were sort of thinking, no, this is a fait accompli, this is what we do.
Yeah.
We recycle the ball really quick. Where the Hurricanes were beautiful to watch. Watch us go. And then everything was pressure. And there was one moment, I think, where Anton Leonard Brown ran out of the defensive line and just targeted either Billy Proctor or might have been Brett Cameron. Anyway, the person who was offloading the ball, could have even been Geordie. And the ensuing pass was a bit shit, all because of that pressure, because of the read from Leonard Brown. And I was just thinking, it's actually quite cool seeing a team go, well, the only way to stop that is by freaking going nuts, getting in their face. So I sort of appreciated the urgency. And you know how you're talking about semi-finals, how it's great to have a semi-final like that. Conversely, when I was editing the rugby rap for the Crowd Goes Wild, and I looked at the Blues after the full-time whistle against the Brumbies, barely a whimper, barely whereas I could look in the background, I saw ALB just going, two hands, fist pump, just going, and everybody just going freaking nuts. And they won by a similar margin, but you look at what it meant to the Chiefs compared to the Blues going,
Yeah,
okay.
I actually noticed that. It's an interesting point you raise of the Blues were very much onto the next, job's not done, where maybe that's because they almost thought that it was a foregone conclusion. They're thinking, we're going to win this, and then next week is the game that we're focusing on, where the Chiefs might have thought we're the underdogs here. And can I just take a second to say, lovely positioning of yourself as the written-off underdogs last week on the podcast, James McOnie. You were barely even supporting your own team, and I believe I took umbrage to it at one point because I just couldn't believe the idea of a man sitting there saying, wow, we're all shit, we're not going to get through. I think it's going to be a Hurricanes Blues final. And I was lost for words because, I mean, I support the Highlanders every week when I'm in my picks, regardless of who they're playing, just because I feel like I have to. So to see a man sit there and undermine his team like that, but it turns out it was all a cunning plan to maybe make them the underdogs and almost reverse jinx them.
Totally. Like, you've got to go reverse jinx. You don't want to jinx them because in the end, it's like, be careful what you wish for. I've been in this room as well for so many commentary slaps in the face. Most notably the Lord's final. Fucking hell. Good God. Oh, God. An overnight slap in the face.
Would you rather the Lord's final or the humiliation of the current, I know it's T20, but getting pumped by minnows and getting knocked out early, or would you rather go to the final and draw and not be awarded? I've tried to stop saying lose the final because we didn't lose the final.
Yeah, right.
And draw the final but not be awarded the trophy on technicality. Which would you rather do?
I'd much rather lose to a minnow.
Lose to a minnow, get knocked out, not even have to play in the round of 8?
Yeah, because it's just T20. But, that rather than rake over the coals of Lords, all I was going to say is the Chiefs, I always believed and always supported. It's just like in your brain you have to go, right, prepare yourself for the worst, and the only way to do that is by going, look, that team's led the league all season. They've been the front runners and also standard setters. I think the whole the Chiefs and the Blues have lifted their play because of the Hurricanes. Yeah, no doubt. Like the Blues beating the Hurricanes when they were probably lucky to. There was a weird sort of turnover at the end of the game, right? Even that put them in a place where they were so uncomfortable. And the Chiefs have lost to the Hurricanes twice, and then really, the intercept by Wallace Satiti sort of, that was that clutch play or pivotal play and stuff like that. It still took something amazing for it to go their way. I mean, that's how good the Hurricanes were. So, no, mate, I'm happy to say with the Blues this weekend, I think they still start favourites, but the Chiefs now have at least shown what they're capable of because they hadn't really shown that before. I
think one thing the Chiefs did, and we were speaking a couple of times about semi-final, is just that points early in a semi or any sort of playoff match, I think it's almost like doubly pressurizes the other team. They're almost worth 2 points because before they knew it, the Canes were down 14 and they're thinking, fuck, we're going to get bundled out here. Like, you saw the panic almost creep in just from early points in knockout footy. And I think it'll be the team this week who gets on the board a couple of times, not just a cheeky try that you can claw back, but when you realise you're down 2 scoring plays and I think it was less than 10 minutes into the game, I think it just is so crucial. And that'll be the players I think that'll decide the finale.
Well, we're going to take a break, but on the other side of this, I've got a very special guest for you, Tony Lyall.
Ooh, very excited to hear who it is.
And for everyone out there.
And the listeners, great.
Yeah. Okay, hey, Tony, I've got a special guest for us today.
You do?
And his name from the past of the Chiefs and the All Blacks is halfback Brendon Leonard.
Brendon Leonard.
And he's on the line right now. Brendon Leonard, how are you? Chiefs mana to you, and how's it going?
Hey, good, thank you. How are you guys?
Look, I'm fantastic, and thank you for joining us on the show. Tell us, how are you feeling about the Chiefs, and did you watch that game against the Canes, the big old semi in your face?
I did actually. I haven't watched a lot, but I've actually been bad luck to them. So I watched maybe 2 games at the start of the year, and they lost both of them. So I stopped watching for a bit, but I bravely watched the semi.
Okay.
Especially when we were 2 tries up and people texting me, I was like, I've got to watch this. So I did watch it, and I was very impressed, obviously, being a mad King Chiefs supporter.
Well, you're not a bad luck omen, Brendon. I mean, this is off the top of my head, but I believe, you won 2 championships with the Chiefs?
Yeah, that was I think that's where my luck ended. I went over to Europe after that. Came last with my Italian team twice. And then I went to the Ospreys, and they've been in the semi-finals each year. We finished maybe 10th or 11th. So I was known as, I'm probably not as bad as G Lane's Grim Reaper status, but I was definitely known as bad luck. So I sort of quickly finished out. I thought, well, maybe I should support the Crusaders, and that's probably what's happened this year.
Yeah, good. Exactly. Send your bad luck all around the place. You were good luck. They called you Harry. Is that after your resemblance to the cricketer, I guess, Chris Harris? Is this correct?
Apparently so, yes. It was Richard Kahui and all his wit gave it to me one day when we were just playing cricket before training, and it sort of just stuck, one of those things. So I believe it was for my cricket ability rather than my looks, but...
It's actually an incredible compliment, because when I was playing schoolboy cricket, you could get a name printed on the back of your shirt, and I'm talking about 12 years old, and they had to say you can't all get Harry printed on the back of your shirt because everyone wanted to be Harry because Chris Harris was such a legend at the time. So I take it as a huge compliment.
Absolutely. Lovely from you.
What are your memories of the Chiefs Mana victories back then? Did you even say Chiefs Mana back in 2011 and 2012?
It's that's where it sort of started, was that sort of culture started. There was it sort of got brought in. Obviously, Rennie came on board, and then he started a leadership group with sort of Liam, and we did sort of dive into the history of the region. I guess if all this Māori culture and stuff like that, and sort of what the Chiefs actually meant, and how the name came about and stuff like that. I've been in the Chiefs for, I think it was 8 years. I had no idea why we were called the Chiefs or anything like that. So I guess it grew its own sort of personality in a way because of the success we had that year. And obviously a little bit like, probably not as extent, but a little bit like the Wars, like it sort of grew its own sort of momentum through us winning. But yeah, from a guy that's been in the team for a long time, it was quite a cool little addition, and sort of a little catch cry, and sort of what we based, I guess, everything we did on.
And I'm thinking back of that team as well. It was absolutely stacked. I mean, yourself, Kahui you mentioned earlier, Sonny Bill was floating around, Liam Messam. How good is it when you're in a team like that who is so hot on form and just stacked to the gills? Do you just feel invincible?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely, I was sort of probably past my best, and there was a lot of young guys coming through, like Brodie Retallick, Sam Kane. They'd all just playing outstanding rugby, and sort of from young guys that sort of obviously went on to have very impressive careers. They were sort of, the culture that they came into was sort of, it's amazing to see how good they became very quickly. I think like the sort of the Chiefs Mana and all that sort of vibe and culture sort of definitely helped bring those young guys through.
And speaking of those players, and you're winning championships, so who was the MVP of the post-match do after you did win the trophy? Is there someone who deserves a special shout out?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It was a bit different. I'll tell you what, it was very different from when I started at the Chiefs to when I finished at the Chiefs. I don't think there was many drinkers at the Chiefs when I finished, but when I started, it was a bit different. But no, it was definitely the professional era changed a lot when in my sort of 8-9 years here in New Zealand. So I guess that's definitely a good thing, and you can see it with, I guess, the results and everything else. But I've got to shout out Kahui, don't I? He's always good to sort of hang out with afterwards.
Yeah, I actually I've heard a story of once a wedding he was at that someone I know was at just coincidentally. They were like, oh, Richard Kahui's there, and he was also the king of the wedding. Just took the handlebars, was like, guys, we're partying on, the wedding finished, and he was like, not on my watch. Got everyone who was keen off to the pub to carry on the wedding, and I always remember thinking, that guy, he sounds like a good guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Always count on Kahui to bring a bit of heat in that regard. So, yeah, good fun.
Can you talk about Richard Kahui and Stephen Donald dressing up in military gear in South Africa and causing quite a stir? They possibly went too far. It sort of went public as well, remember?
Yes, it rings bell. Like I don't think I was on that tour for some reason, but that's right. It was the final, the week of the final. So they're in Pretoria.
Yeah.
And they it was a press conference with Fozzie, and they pretended to hijack the press conference. And I know it was. I mean, they're not the smartest tools in the shed. Let's all be honest. So deciding to do that in South Africa when everyone's probably got guns under their jackets and waistbelts, but all is well, the end well, I think, apart from the final score at the game. But I wasn't there, but I'm assuming it wasn't okayed by the senior management at the time.
Fozzie, was he a bit of a? Did he enjoy a joke? Did he enjoy a laugh, Fozzie?
Yeah, he was quite lighthearted. Yep, he was a good guy. So I'm sure he took it wellish. I'm not actually sure, but there's his two favourite sons anyway, so I'm sure he got over it pretty quickly. Yeah,
exactly. I think Stephen Donald had that sort of charm that he rode all the way to the bank and to the World Cup final, really. Can you discuss maybe your role in Stephen Donald getting to that World Cup final? Because I understood he spent a lot of hours at the pub with yourself and Liam Messam.
I remember he was sort of looking very gaunt, but that's still Stephen Donald-ish anyway. When he came around to my place at, I think we're at Coromandel, and I sort of said, mate, you got to get some food into you. But always a very fit man, so we went for a run. I think he murdered me on the run. So, it was interesting how it all happened. I sort of was glad at how it happened for him, because he sort of trained. He was one of the hardest trainers I know, and one of definitely the smartest footy players I've ever played with. I know a lot of people probably won't see that. He just got judged on maybe his goal kicking and whatever. But I was so happy that he sort of got that opportunity and sort of worked out for him, because I think after all the stuff that he went through with the Chiefs and stuff like that, it was really pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and especially a guy like that, he was so incredible, especially Chiefs and Waikato as well. It must have been a real joy to play inside him, especially I feel at provincial level, where I remember watching him and it was kind of like watching someone who's repeated 7th form for the second year playing the first 15. He was just dominating everyone. I mean, was it just like give it to Stephen and see what he does?
Basically. What I enjoyed about Stephen is he was so tall, so my pass was pretty average, so I had like a wide berth of, and you can imagine going from someone who's 6 foot whatever for 8 years, and all of a sudden the first 5 at the Chiefs is Aaron Cruden. So all of a sudden my pass has got to go from pretty give it wherever and he'll catch it, to sort of Aaron Cruden's is about half the size. So I've got to really make sure it's got to be pinpoint accuracy. So I sort of took a bit to, change and adjust to a 6'4" to a 4'4" first 5. But
yeah,
I think when Taure Kubalo came and took me over, so I sort of probably didn't go so well.
Cruden had come straight from Hobbiton, had he?
Yeah, basically, which I should be used to coming from Matamata, but never mind.
Yeah, exactly. He's a wee fella, isn't he? Yeah, you're right in the middle of the heart of Hobbiton. So this weekend, Brendon, you've been invited to come up to the game, but can you tell us where you'll be watching and what you think the keys to victory will be?
I'll be watching in heart of Chiefs country in New Plymouth.
Okay.
Some of them aren't too happy about what I said there, but my family lives down there, so I'll be down there looking after them and watching the game, probably with a few mates.
Yeah.
And the keys to the game, well, I guess it's, if we start well, then really, I guess it just gives the team confidence and belief that they're in the game. Otherwise, it's small margins, and I think I was listening to commentary and Mills said it's just about winning those small margins, and what Wallace Satiti did on the weekend with that little intercept. I mean, you've seen the replays. Geordie Barrett could have been under post and it would have swung the game the other way. So it's just those little moments that we won on the weekend, and Hurricanes had a few chances slip, and all of a sudden the game's gone from them. So boring chat, but if we start well and win those little key moments, We should be right.
I'm just pissed off that you're watching the regular commentary and not the ACC. This is
that's her fault.
Massive.
No, it was afterwards. I switched over. You guys start mumbling and can't make a word out. But otherwise,
that checks out. I totally believe that. And
Yeah.
there's a whole new range of halfbacks coming through the New Zealand ranks, and a bit of a gap there with, some people sort of leaving. Aaron Smith, notably. Is there any of the young guys you've got an eye on, and you're like, yep, he's the next guy? Put the money in the bank for him.
I've always liked Cortez Atma. Obviously, coming from country town in the Waikato, I've always followed him from when he started playing for Waikato. I thought he had a bit of X factor about him. Scores a few tries, got a good left boot. So I've always liked watching him play. And obviously, as this year's gone from strength to strength with, I guess, getting more game time at number 9 jersey. So I know he would have learnt a lot under Brad Weber as well. But yeah, I've definitely enjoyed watching him. I'm pretty sure he'll be in the Scott Robinson's team announced in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet. He's been tearing the house down, and especially with that tutelage you mentioned from Spud, you can't go wrong learning from one of the best to do it.
Absolutely. So we'll see, but yeah.
Hey, Brendon Leonard, I was just going to say that given that Stephen Donald was pretty tall, you were very tall as well. It's kind of a freakish halfback first 5 pairing. It's like an NBA backcourt type thing. It's weird.
Thanks for that, but
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I was still always the smallest, but yeah.
You're 6 foot, though?
Skinniest. I was probably the skinniest as well, to be honest. And I definitely had the smallest calves, so I made sure my socks were always up. But he preferred to wear his socks down. Questionable, but anyway.
Bit of a curveball question here for you. I noticed there's a thriving market for vintage jerseys at the moment. I mean, I'm addicted to buying things I don't need. Do you have like an absolute stash somewhere of all your Chiefs jerseys and your AB's jerseys just locked away? Just sort of skyrocketing in value?
I do, but surely they're not vintage yet.
I don't know, what, those early ones, 207 or whatever?
No, yeah, they're still the baggy ones. They're still there. It's cotton. Probably weigh about 5 kgs when you put them on in the wet, but no, like I've got a few, but they've got Leonard on the back, so they'll probably decrease in value. I've got to somehow scrape the name off and might add a bit more value.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually. I think there's some terps or something you can use there. We can work that. We'll talk to Dulux about that. We've got a sponsor.
Yeah, we can get some turpentine to get a Dulux. You must have a wee AB's one on the wall though somewhere, right? A wee debut or something like this.
Yeah. I've got one on the wall, and I think I gave one to Mum and Dad. So
that's good.
I think that's my 2 that I've got. I don't have too many of them, unfortunately. But I've always thought about Richie McCaw. What's like, that's a lot of jerseys and a lot of more so just the gear you get every time. All the Adidas kit, all the bags of casual gear. So
well, I actually saw him in an airport very recently. He was off to Gold Coast on the same flight as me with Dan Carter actually, and this is like maybe last year, and he still had an Adidas bag on with RM as initials on it, so he's still getting good use out of all the gear, which I think, maybe that just shows the thrifty nature of the character. Yeah, well,
you still got to cycle through it, like can't give it all away. But
I'll take a baggy number 9 with Leonard. Leave Leonard on. I'm happy to. I'll be proud to wear that. Maybe not in Tiamutu, but yeah. Well, that'll be great. Hey, Brendon Leonard, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the game.
Problem.
Please feel free to text in 3236. We'll give you priority texting rights on
lovely
on Saturday night.
My chat will be horrendous, but I'll give you some good rugby yarns.
Yeah, look after yourself down there in New Plymouth. Don't get too carried away should the Mana bus pull up to the station. Oh, thank you very much, Brendon Leonard. What a guy. I can't believe you teed that up. That is genuinely... I was not expecting that when I walked in today, that I was going to be speaking to All Black and Chiefs player Brendon Leonard. One of my favourite bald men ever.
Yeah, exactly. He got name checked actually on the commentary on Friday night, where Manai Stewart said text in bald All Blacks, the most recent bald All Blacks, and so actually Manai thought of Brendon Leonard straight away, which made me happy because he's one of my favourites.
Mark Talia is where my brain goes to straight away.
Well, he said before. I think that was what sparked it.
Yeah,
was the last All Black to be bald before Mark Talia.
Right.
And then all the people came through. Ben Franks was the one that sort of that got the most votes. But then I was thinking, well, Israel Dagg got some assistance.
He did get some assistance. I mean, there's Keith Robinson. Is he the...
Yeah, there's votes for Keith Robinson. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Norm Hewitt is old school. Bull Allen, obviously.
They did, yeah, that's right.
But they're the OGs. Jonah, I don't know what Jonah was up to.
Yeah.
He sort of had the slug on top of the noggin, but God knows what his hairline really was.
Yeah, it was always hard to tell. And Carl Tuanukuafi, I think, had enough hair to not be bald, but then decided once it receded a bit to go, okay, this is my life now.
He whipped it off. I mean, there's Jeff Wilson is he's still on the tally being a big bald guy, but he was famously Goldie for his long hair.
He was Goldie there he held on probably to the end of his career to have a wispy.
He had a wispy.
He had a wispy pubes up the top.
I don't think Christian Cullen was bald, but he certainly whipped it off. He sort of ran a young Aryan look there for a while when he was first coming on. He shaved it very close to the noggin.
He did look a bit skinny. He did look like a football hooligan, didn't he, from England, basically?
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
He was a bit what you're looking at, but he's the smallest guy. So maybe he had to shave his head to look more intimidating to the other players, potentially. I'm not quite sure what the idea was there. I'm sure there's an absolute truckload more of... I mean, I wasn't bald, was I? I was going to say Jerry Collins, but he just dyed the top. He sort of dyed a bald man's head on.
Yeah, that's right.
Like as if the bit that would come out and with male pattern baldness was the blonde bit and the rest was the black.
Where's Kieran Reid at the moment? I actually saw him the other day. I mean,
he's pretty good.
He's good, yeah.
He's pretty good. I mean, I always thought that Richie McCaw, famously not bald, he had the greatest hair in rugby union.
Flat top.
I thought he missed a real trick after 2011. Obviously, keep the flat top. You want to be, a haircut you can see your watch to for that first World Cup. But then afterwards for his Swan Song World Cup when he came back in 2015, I always thought he should have grown his hair out and had like a big mane, because I bet he could grow an epic long head of hair. Like he'd look like a lion out there charging around, but no, that's not his style. He likes to keep the exact same hair. He must go to the barber every day.
Did Richie McCaw, I know the Crusaders, when they were on tour in South Africa for the during Super Rugby, they had to grow facial hair. There was a competition. So he would go generally with the chopper mow.
He'd go chopper mow, yeah.
Chopper mow. So that's the only time, because that was basically a team sanctioned or whatever, that was a bonding event. But I don't think I've seen him, and I can't imagine Richie McCaw with a beard in later life. I think you're right about the barber. I think he'd go there for the clean shave as well, give him the cutthroat.
Yeah, I think he'd see he likes it to be exactly just so. And I also remember, speaking of team bonding haircuts, the Chiefs at one stage, they all shaved their heads off, I believe, in solidarity with someone who was going through some cancer treatment. I do remember Damien McKenzie not shaving his off, and he just basically was like, I'm too vain, I didn't shave my head. And I'm thinking, come on, Damo, you gotta whip the lid off. I know you got glorious hair and a beautiful mullet, and you look great, and you smile when you kick, and we love you, but shave it off, whip it off, go skinhead.
I will not hear any Damien McKenzie slander in the
I could see
the final.
Your face changing as I was saying.
When did this? No, anyway. Actually, was that a Chiefs thing at what's the name of that mall area? I keep on forgetting, but it's north of Hamilton, and I think Clark Gayford was there as a DJ
or something.
Yeah, Tarapa, but it's an old base. Anyway,
Clark Gayford
was an old Air Force base.
I wonder where
he was. He was a DJ. He was a DJ for More FM or The Breeze or something like that. He was definitely there doing hyping the crowd. He always called me McCoine. He thought that was quite funny instead of McOnie.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But
McCoine, I like that.
Fuck you, Clark. You can't McCoine me for the rest of my life. But no, he was all right. And then Ben Boyce joined in with the McCoine slander, and I was like, all right.
Well,
and I mean, what I loved is that he felt confident enough, Clark Gayford, to call me McCoine, which is no big deal. I don't care. I've had a lot worse nicknames. Given that I get the feeling with his surname, it might have been a tough time through school.
Yeah, I agree totally. It's tough to be called Gayford. There was a guy who I went to school with called Stuart Gay, and he was 7th form the year I was 3rd form. And when you're 3rd form, you've got to run the messages. You get a day a year where you sit outside the office, and any message you run. And very intimidating going into the 7th form classes. And sorry, I probably should have made up a fake first name for this guy. But
it only works with Stuart Gay.
Well, yeah, I could have changed his first name. But anyway, he was from South Africa as well, so he had a deep South African accent, and he was... I'd never heard of him before this. I actually later learned...
Hello, I'm gay.
I did choir with him in later years, and he once told us how he shot the baboons, but that's neither here nor there. And I didn't know he existed. And so I got the note and I walked in the 7th form class and I'm terrified, a little third former, pissing myself. Oh, God, I've got to go in. I hadn't read the note.
I shoot the baboons. It's a big gay tradition in my family.
I imagine it is a big gay, the gay baboons, gay baboon shooting. I think there's something else. But so I walked in with a note and I opened it up and I hadn't read it and I saw it. And the teacher's like, come on, what have you? Out with it, young boy, or have a teacher's talk. And I was like, oh, I think this is a prank. Because I just saw it, Stuart Gay. And I was like, oh, no, I don't think this is real. And the guy's like, what do you mean? Why not? I'm like, oh, just the name. I don't think it's anyone's name. Like Stuart Gay, no one would be called that. And then the whole class was like, yeah! And they all started chanting, Stuart's gay. And he walked out and he walked past he goes, fuck you, man. But he's like, fuck you, bro. And I remember being like, I didn't do anything. I'm an innocent party here. But I landed myself in it. And he was very rough.
Oh, was the teacher who said, I don't think anyone is
No, that was me. Because I was like, oh, I think I'm being pranked. Because I had to read it out in front of the class. Oh. And I was going to be like, Stuart Gay. And the teacher's going to be like, hey, get out of here, you punk. So I was like, oh, no, this isn't a real kid's name. And
you milked that.
And you could hear the tension building because I think the class realised who it was going to be. And then I said, Stuart Gay, but that's not a real name. They went crazy. He walked past and I just remember going, fuck you, bro.
So wait a second, we've had the start of your stand-up career at the magazine stand.
Yeah.
This is where you got the crowd reaction that you wanted.
Yeah, I did. I milked the crowd.
You milked the crowd.
I was in it. I will say this. I was truly innocent. I was trying to do the right thing at school. I was like, I don't want to read this out because
it's not for you to interpret what people's names are.
Yeah, I know this now, but I just never heard of a guy with the last name Gay. I mean, and when they're doing it now,
well,
at the Euros, I think in the English team, there's a guy with the last name Gay, and I thought the same thing. It must have been tough at high school for him.
At Te Awamutu Intermediate, the best cross-country runner was Jason Gay, and he could run and run and run. Unbelievable runner. And I was trying to find him on Facebook or something, but then I saw that there was a young runner, someone gay, I can't remember, in Wanganui, and he's outstanding as well. So I figured that must be the lineage of the great gay runners who are started off in Te Awamutu, because he'd win the cross country by 400 meters. There's no one close. It's just
Who's Tyson Gay? Is that a name? What's Tyson Gay? I'm going to Google that while we do whatever we need to do.
Oh, yeah, Tyson Gay.
Is that a sprinter?
Yeah, it's a sprinter.
Is that an American sprinter?
American sprinter, Tyson Gay.
So there's a lot of fast gays.
Yeah.
And by that I mean people with the last name
Gay.
Yeah.
That's all we're talking about here. Anyway, let's do the TAB Good Hunch. We've got
I feel like we started on a better story than what we ended up there. I think we've gone off-piste and we haven't gone back to the main trail. I think we were really getting into a different topic.
What was it?
I have no idea.
No, Clark Gayford just calling me McOnie. That was
shaving heads. We can go back further than that.
I don't
Bald
think...
All Blacks. Brendon Leonard, what a guy. Thank you very much.
That's how it all started.
For coming on the podcast. We appreciate it. And it is now time for the TAB Game Day Good Hunch. It's rebranded. It is now time for the TAB Game Day Good Hunch. We've got a $100 bonus bet to chuck on. And there's only one big game everyone's talking about because there's only one game that anyone's talking about, and that is the final. And what do you reckon about this?
Yep.
Satiti Satutu, double it up, both to score a try.
To score a try, I like that. That's a good combo. It's a good multi. It's a simple multi, and why not? Both. I think Satutu is possibly near the top of the try scoring list, and Satiti is definitely either setting up or there or thereabouts. And it's a good bet.
Now, riddle me this: both have funny first names, Hoskins and Wallace. That's unusual first names. Are they both sons of professional rugby players?
Yeah. So Samuel Satiti was Manu Samoa captain, and he played for the Hurricanes in Wellington. Loose forward as well, unbelievable. One of my favourite players. I'm a big Manu Samoa fan. Yeah, and he was electric, very quick for a loose forward, and you can see that with Wallace. Yeah. Named after William Wallace from Braveheart.
Is he?
Yeah, because I think Semmel was playing over in the United Kingdom when that movie came out and all that sort of stuff. Oh. And then there was also so Hoskins. I'm not sure how he got the name Hoskins. I should know because I do know the family, and Waisaki is. I remember meeting him as a young fella and turning up at training at Varsity here. Varsity Rugby Club here in Auckland, and seeing the size of Waisaki Sotutu and going, holy shit. am I going to have to tackle him? We're not doing contact training, are we, today? We're just going to muck around. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because he was so muscular and, a brute of a man, such a good player. Got a bung knee quite early in his career. Otherwise, we could have seen definitely him playing for the All Blacks. So Waisake, probably along with Dwayne Monkley, probably one of the best rugby players to never play for the All Blacks.
Yeah. I reckon we should get the two dads together. You should interview the dads. There you go. Giving you ideas for your Krako's Wild show.
It's a good idea, actually.
Get the dads together. Say, hey, let's talk about the boys. These number 8s, they're tearing the competition apart. Huge fanfare for both of them at the moment. Do with that what you will. Well, let's chuck some $100 bonus bets on those guys to both be anytime try scorers. I reckon that'll net us a lovely little bit of loot. And you can also head to the TAB website, tab.co.nz, or download the TAB app to check out all the rugby union promos in the boosted odds market. And if there ever was a time to bet the house on something, you may as well chuck it on the grand final of Super Footy.
Yes, indeed. I was just thinking about Waisake. The first time I actually saw him play, Waisake Satutu, he was playing for Wesley College against St. Stephen's, which is no longer a college here, but it was a big game in that sort of counties area. And even then, when you're talking about someone looking like a 7 former who'd stayed back for a year, it was like Waisake. I was like, ooh, again, that second fight from Wesley.
Yeah.
Do not mess.
He's a massive rig. I mean, this is the story I always go to, but Anton Oliver was famous Marlborough old boy, way older than me, but they have all the first 15 pictures each year in the hallways. And he was in the first 15 in third form, and he was the captain, I believe, in late fourth form. And it just looks like someone's dad's sitting in the front of the photo by seventh form. It's crazy. He's a fully grown, he's bald. I mean, speaking of bald All Blacks, he's basically bald in seventh form. He has no hair, really. He just has grown man arms, hairy knuckles, and the kids around him look like children just by association. It's insane. It's one of those guys who, he did Tom Hanks and Big or whatever it is, Robin Williams and Jack. He grew up too fast. He was just a fully grown man before everyone else, and I guess that's how you become an All Black, is you be a dad when you're 12.
That is it'd be good to show that photo, because that sounds like a classic. Yeah, and there is always one guy like that in every rugby team where you just go, okay, they've got they're shaving every day.
Yeah, he looked
they're shaving every day.
And it was crazy if someone would have to maybe shave a mustache here and there at high school, right? Like when people first started shaving, you're like, well, nice. He looked like he would. He literally has 5 o'clock shadow in the picture. That's what we always used to be like, this is insane. Get his dad out of the photo. What a guy.
Quite classic that for a week when there's only one game, this is possibly our longest podcast.
I think it is.
Thank you for joining us.
Probably wrap it up. We're overexcited about this final, and we will see you next week for a wee bit of a wrap up. And either James will be on the party bus down there in Hamilton, or he'll be, just sitting inside, sort of silently sulking in the dark. Either or, we'll catch you up next Wednesday. Thanks for listening.